Yes. Okay. So, are you ready?
I'm ready. All set.
Okay. So, so firstly, a very good evening to all the viewers, and I hope all of you had a wonderful Eid. So, starting off, I would also like to say good morning to Joanne since she connected with us all the way from Boston, where it's 9 a.m. now. So, and I would also like to thank her for joining us despite having such a busy schedule. Now, to introduce myself, I'm Narita Hassan Farki, and I'm the Director of International Relations of Community of Biotechnology. So, Community of Biotechnology is basically a nonprofit organization for student bodies in science, mainly biotechnology, from across Bangladesh, our country. We mainly conduct seminars, workshops, webinars, and many more to help students out in their career or in multiple aspects in general. So, our past sessions emphasized on nanotechnology as well as higher studies. But for our today's session, which we would like to call to action, take the bull by the horns, steps to a fulfilling career in science by Joanne Kamens. So, to start off our session, we would like to say that when we are planning, we usually plan for a bachelor's and then master's and then PhD. But then what exactly? What do we do next? So to answer these questions, we don't really know what to do next, most of us. So to answer our queries and the questions, we have our very special guest, Joanne Kamens, with us. So Joanne Kamens, she's the executive director of AdGene, and she has been serving there since 2011. AdGene is a mission-driven nonprofit dedicated to accelerating research by helping scientists around the world share reagents. She received her PhD in genetics from Harvard Medical School and then spent 15 years at BASF, about ultimately serving as the group leader in molecular biology. In 2007, she joined RXI Pharmaceuticals as the Senior Director of Research Collaborations. She was also recognized as one of the Pharma Voice 100 most inspiring commanders and chiefs, and one of the 40 over 40 women making an impact. She is also serving in various nonprofit boards, and she has also delivered a number of speeches at universities in MIT, Harvard, and the list goes on, but I would like to give the floor to Joanne for now. So you may start the session.
Thanks so much, Narita. I really appreciate the invitation. I love to meet scientists from around the world. So I welcome any outreach from any of the viewers who want to hear more about my content after the talk. And feel free to ask questions or make comments. Narita will help me manage the questions. I may be able to do some during the seminar, but I'll certainly take time at the end. So the reason why we call this grab the bull by the horns, I don't know if it's a US phrase, it's a phrase I know. It really means taking charge of things. And unfortunately, a lot of the science trainers, the PIs, the lab heads, the mentors are not trained managers. Don't really always have all of the skills that are most beneficial for training scientists. They're certainly going to train you in the technical part of your science, but when it comes to the career things that you need to know, they may not be able to do it. So I know a lot about the United States system. I don't know as much about the system in Bangladesh, but I hope that you will, in your questions, inform me if I'm on the right track for how things are in your systems. In our system, we really need to take charge of our own careers. It's super important that we are taking the steps, because very few of our training programs really guide us through the important steps for ending up with a job after our training. So what I find is that scientists think they make decisions very logically. We have a hypothesis, we define it, we test it, we go around a sort of cycle of what makes sense. But what I really find is that unfortunately, when it comes to careers, scientists just make decisions by their gut feeling. Like, oh, might be a good idea. This lab seems fun. This science is exciting. I'm going to roll the dice and take a chance on this 6-year lab I'm going to work in. And what I would really like to do is to have you really, take more charge in thinking about what it is that you want to do. Narita, you might want to mute your microphone. There's a little bit of feedback. It might be a little better for the sound. Thanks.
Okay.
So what I'm going to try and do today is help you think about the things that you can do to make decisions with a little more intention. So again, this is your responsibility. I'm sorry to say, it would be great if it were part of the training for a scientist that you are also trained in all the career skills that you need, but you're not. So hopefully that will change over time and more programs will include this information. But until then, I would like to see you able to handle that journey. So in the US, we have a lot of a tendency to devalue leaving academia. And again, I'm not sure if this is as prevalent in Bangladesh, but this kind of rhetoric, it took a lot for Virginia to set aside the feeling that she was wasting her PhD. Virginia was going to a job in drug discovery at a pharma company. She's not wasting her PhD. Also, you don't leave science when you leave academia. You're a scientist. Science is something you are. It's not something you do. So you don't leave science. You leave academia. You take a different path. And there are so many fantastic things to do that are not academic. Now, I'm not down on academia. I don't like anti-academic rhetoric either, like 5 illogical myths keeping you stuck in academia. I just want the right people to choose academia, the ones that will be successful there and will enjoy it. For some of us, that isn't the right path. It wasn't the right path for me. It was great training in academia, but I didn't want to stay and continue my career there. So I really, really want the people who are the right people to stay in academia, to train the next generation to do that. I just want it to be a more dedicated decision and that you have the freedom to make a different choice if it's a better one for you. So not only is it important to have these skills because you might want to leave academia, but you might have to leave academia. These are some numbers in the United States. I'll show you some numbers in the UK. The blue line is the number of PhDs awarded through 2011, and the orange line is the number of tenure-track faculty positions. I think you can see that there's a big disconnect there. This continues to be true. There are not enough academic jobs for all of the trained PhDs. That's okay. We need you doing all kinds of other important work with science. I mean, these days, please go into politics. We need more scientist politicians. How would we be handling this coronavirus pandemic better if all of our politicians had better science training? That would be fantastic, right? It would have turned out better probably. Here's another view in the UK. That little tiny 0.45%, less than 1% of the trained PhDs become full lifetime professors. And then people do all kinds of other interesting things. Now, I would rather not see you taking this path over here, the careers outside science, that big arrow to the top. I would rather not see that. And the reason for that is that you spend so much time training to be a scientist. Maybe 6 years to a PhD, maybe another 4 to 6 years as a postdoc. That's a long time. It's a shame not to be doing science if that's what your training is. Again, because scientists really thrive on doing science. So it doesn't mean that you have to pipette, but I would love to see all of you in science-related careers or using your science in your careers after your training. So here's the problem. The heads of the labs and the principal investigators and the leaders in academia have a sort of inherent conflict of interest. Your publishing papers is what helps their careers. And really, their careers are not helped when you are doing science, career exploration. And so there's this conflict of interest. Now, some PIs are extremely ethical and are great mentors and are going to support all of your career decisions, and some are not. So part of the lesson is to try and find those labs that will be more supportive. But you must be aware that this is a conflict of interest. It doesn't mean that you should ever not do good science or bench work or try to publish papers while you're in academia. Those are the measures of a successful stint in academia. but you also have to have your own priorities, your own career in mind. And the earlier, the better. I love being able to speak to undergraduate science students about these things, because sometimes I speak to 6-year PhD students and it's very late for them to begin thinking about careers, and some of them have not. So the first thing is to think about yourself a little bit. Some of the information you need has to do with what your preferences are, what you're good at, what you like, what's fun. Having good mentors can help with this. I don't have time to do all of my different presentations, but I have some great presentations on mentoring and content at the Agene blog, blog.agene.org. And you can learn a lot there about developing good mentors that will help you through a career. And ask you hard questions, because mentors don't give you good answers. They ask you good questions. So you can think about what are the things that might affect your needs and your strengths. So why would you want to stay in academia? Well, I think there's a lot of great reasons. We really need a diverse set of individuals to train the next generation. Maybe you want to focus on science for science's sake. You have a great sense of autonomy. Science in academia is you're allowed to be a bit more individual. Once you leave academia, people work much more in teams with accountability to other people. It's not that academic scientists don't work in teams, but it's a little bit different. But I think that in order to be successful in academic, the most important thing is that you are an extreme self-starter. And I mean extreme, because there's no boss essentially in academia. I mean, in the Bangladesh system, it might be slightly different, but you have to come up with all of the work on your own. You probably have to raise your own salary and get grants and support yourself. It's all you. There's no one else making you do that. If you don't have the kind of initiative to work that independently and with that kind of drive, academia may not be the best place to fulfill your full science career. It wasn't for me, it might not be for you, or you might have what it takes to do those things. And if you do, you definitely should pursue that type of career. But why might you move out of academia? Well, maybe you have to move your location and the academic careers are not with you. Maybe you have a spouse who's a scientist as well, and the two-body problem. You're both trying to get jobs. Maybe you like the variety. I've changed jobs 3 times. I've learned so much at every career. I've used my science all along the way. I don't even know, what my next thing will be. So I like that change. I like that. I've liked moving from field to field. Maybe you like a little more structured approach to your time. Maybe you love science, but you're not interested in bench work, or maybe you're not good at bench work. There's a lot of scientists who are very good scientists, but they're not that great at pipetting and performing experiments. Maybe you want to move onto the business side. I know some people who want to be very close to the therapeutics. They want to be closer. It's not that basic research does not give rise to therapeutics, but being closer to bringing the drugs to the patients may be important to you. So how did I get here? Well, I had a lot of transitions in my career. I'm going to talk a little bit about the arrows in this figure, how I got from one position to the other. And really, it's pretty obvious how that was, and that was by knowing other people. So I had to meet people outside academia to get opportunities outside academia. So I don't have, again, I'm not going to do my entire Not Networking blog, but you can look on the Agene YouTube site if you want to watch that. How do people say they get jobs? This is this was an international study. About 1,000 scientists said, how did they find their current job? Half of them said networking. But if you look at this list, recruiters, conferences and events, alumni network, serendipity, like luck, that's probably networking. LinkedIn is the networking website. So really, like something like 80% of people find their jobs because they know somebody. So don't get stuck on the term networking. We'll talk a little bit about what it means, but it's just because somebody knows somebody else. So why is that? Well, here's what happens. Let's say you have an employee referral program and 40% of the hires come from that program, where only 7% of the applications are referrals. So many employers love referrals. They love to know someone who knows someone. So why is that so important, referrals? Well, it's a little bit to erase the factor of dangerous uncertainty. So You can hire someone that you've never met from a resume, even if you interview them. Most people can appear to be sane and normal for like one day, okay? So let's say they interview for one day, they're sane and normal and pleasant, and then after you hire them, 2 weeks later, you have to call security to escort them out because they pulled a knife on someone in the lab who borrowed their pipette. That actually happened to me. And so I really would have preferred if a referral had said to me, I know this person, I've known them for a long time, they're going to be a good colleague. So as soon as people get referrals, those resumes get a lot more attention and a lot more opportunity. So if you can see the difference here, 7% of applications, but 40% of hires. That's why knowing people is important. Why do they prefer it? 8.6 out of 10 employers said that number one source for a quality candidate was referrals. Now, the danger with referrals, of course, is a lack of diversity. So you have to be careful. If you keep hiring people that look just like you, then you're only going to have people that look like you. So you want to look for organizations that are using referrals, but using them in a smart way to also diversify their workforce. 25% of jobs also go to people who actually know the hiring manager. That means not even a referral, like I'm actually hired by someone I know. So how did I use those? So I actually was a referral for my first job. This was in the days before the internet. So in the United States, all of the job ads were in the newspaper every week. There was a giant newspaper section. But I had a referral from my graduate advisor to 3 colleagues in industry, in biotech and pharma. I had 2 interviews of those 3 referrals. I got 1 offer, and then I worked at the same company for 15 years after that. So he arranged those interviews. The second job change I made from pharma to biotech was direct contact. I actually was recruited by someone I had known for many years. We were having lunch, and he said, hey, we have this opening. The Nobel Prize winner in RNAi and I are starting a company called RxI. Do you want to come work with us? And I did a month later. That was a very quick transition. I also was referred and knew directly some of the people at Aegene. So when I had the opportunity to come to Aegene, that was also through knowing people. Note that these last 2 jobs were never advertised. There were no ads. There was nothing online. I would never have known about them if I didn't know people. So relationships are the way that people get positions. I would say especially in small organizations, it's not that you can't apply to jobs online for large companies, but in small companies, people really like to hire people they know because the culture is so important at a small company. One person can have a big impact. And so the people that hire you, they really want to have a good knowledge of the people that are there. So I know we all hate networking. Again, I'm not going to go into the details. Please watch my other webinar on the Aegene YouTube site. But I don't network by doing like false things, like going to events, exchanging business cards with senior people or with people I don't know or with strangers. I try to make it feel more normal. I just try to be open to opportunities to serve on committees, volunteer for things, meet the people that I'm sitting next to, working with. Your colleagues now are your future bosses. So it's just a matter of meeting people and being open to those interactions. That's a very short summary of a much longer talk with some actual tactics for meeting people. So I hope that if this is a challenge for you, that you'll watch that other webinar. So, okay, so the first thing was building relationships. So what was the second thing that I had to do to make those transitions? And that was really be brave enough to try new things. So I have this little slide, keep calm and raise your hand. Whenever, when I was in pharma, somebody said, would you like to do this? I always volunteered. I tried very, very hard to do new things, to stretch myself, to take advantage of the learning all the time. And so when I was asked to come be, when I was interested in working at Aegene, the executive director is the CEO position. I had said to I actually lost a bet about this. I had a friend about 6 years before we had dinner, and she said, you should be the CEO of a biotech. And I said, no, I'm a scientist. That's never going to happen. I'm never going to run a company. And then the opportunity came along to be the executive director of Aegene. And this was like a dream job for me. And it has been a fantastic experience, everything I had hoped for. So, but I was nervous. I was all of my career, I've had times where I've said, can I really do that? And I had to really be brave and say that I could. So I'm going to take this opportunity to just tell you a little bit about Agene because we're very international and we love it that way. So Agene is a nonprofit biotechnology company. So Agene does have revenue. We make money by distributing materials, physical DNA-based reagents and viral vectors to scientists around the world. But we charge a very little bit because the idea is just to make enough money for us to provide our service as a nonprofit. So as a nonprofit, it's not so much that we don't have revenue, it's what we do with the revenue. All of the money goes back into the mission of helping scientists do science faster. So scientists deposit to our repository, our collection. We have a physical collection here in Watertown, Massachusetts, near Boston. And we have a lot of service on those plasmids for the data, the quality control, and then we send them out to scientists in 101 countries. So how did I get to do that? A lot of professional development. I never could have had this job if I hadn't done all kinds of learning experiences along the way. Starting as a bench scientist where I did mentoring of other students, where I did some organizational work for the lab, some administrative work for our lab, and learning about how labs run, into pharma where I managed people. Learned a lot about plasmids, which is what Agene does, so that was really good training. Learned about projects and assays and drug development and business of science. In biotech, even more of the business of science, alliances, communication, business development. If I hadn't had all of these experiences in my early career, I would not have been ready for my job at Agene. You don't just jump into a job in science. Every part of your career enriches you with new skills and new things that you know. So I've managed now up to a little over 100 people here at Agene. I always took all the opportunities I could to learn things about science and about the business of science as well. So Agene started out in 2016. In 2011, when I arrived there, we were actually founded about 16 years ago. But when I got to Agene, we were distributing 200 items a day. And now we're at about actually more like 850 items a day. We have 80,000 plasmids in the collection. From over 4,000 depositing laboratories. Anyone can deposit to Agene. Depositing is free and we help you. And finally, we just distributed to our 101st country. Number 100 was Tunisia and 101 was Uganda. So we have distributed everywhere, including Bangladesh, and would love to see more deposits coming from Bangladesh and distribution there as well. So Agene has plasmids as one of our main services. That's our core offering, but we have other formats. We also have a viral vector service, and we just released a new service where we distribute materials in DNA format, ready for cloning. And you can check out our website to see more about all the services. As I mentioned, we're very international. I love doing this international work. It's one reason why I enjoy giving this webinar for you. I love doing international work. And also able to mobilize quickly. So you might be interested to know that we have probably 1,500 new plasmids for COVID-19 research added since March. Almost all of those plasmids are also available to scientists at for-profit organizations, not just nonprofits. And they've been distributed now at, probably over 7,000 times at this point. So we also have been including useful protocols and journal articles and other resources. So being able to help science right away and mobilize quickly is one of the nice things about working at a biotech like Agene. There's a lot of reasons to join the sharing community. I won't go into details. My favorite reason is that most people's freezer looks like this picture at the top, but our freezer is the picture at the bottom where everything is barcoded and easy to find in our inventory management system. So it's really good to deposit and get your plasmids shared also, more access, more visibility for your organization and for your laboratory. We also have a lot of educational resources, which is something I'd like to draw your attention to. We have a fantastic blog. We have amazing protocol videos, very early career scientists, so like very basic protocols as well as some more advanced protocols on video. We have ebooks with protocols and information and how-to guides. We just published one on how to design a PCR primer. That was a video. We also get about 10,000 technical service inquiries every year that our PhD scientists respond to and help scientists find what they need or do their research. So Agene, it's part of our nonprofit mission. We would love for you to pursue these opportunities for education and knowledge. Also, just so you know, speaking of different careers, Addgene has tons of different jobs that people do that are not bench work, that PhDs and masters and even undergraduate scientists do at Addgene. We have PhDs in outreach and marketing and science communication and science education. Our technical service scientists are mostly PhDs and some masters. We have PhDs in scientists in business development. We have some in software coding. I'm the CEO and I'm a PhD scientist. So there's so many cool jobs you can do with a PhD, not just academia. Benchwork is one of our important roles as well. And so if that is what you really love about science, that is a great thing to do, to pursue as a specialty. So these are the Addgenes. One of the most fun things for me is working with this amazing team of people. It's incredibly diverse. One of my employees actually is from Bangladesh, was actually pretty excited to hear that I was speaking to you. So I hope that you will, consider Addgene in the future if you find your way to a career in nonprofit science. We pride ourselves in our diversity and our teamwork. So professional development, how do you do that? How did I learn all the things I needed to do to run a company? So there's a lot of places to learn. You can learn while you're doing your PhD at your university. Maybe you can audit classes in other fields to learn about biotech and or other nonprofit, government, policy. Those are all great fields for scientists. Maybe you have professional organizations in at your universities or in your field that you could join. Social media has fantastic resources these days for science, career development for scientists, and there's plenty of online courses. So I really recommend that you pursue these things. And the areas that are mostly people are looking for are these areas on the left, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about each of them. So communication, it's great to speak frequently. Practice your presentation skills as much as you can. Even if you're shy, the more you do it, the easier it gets. I do a lot of public speaking. That's why I can do this pretty calmly, and with or without my slides, I'm happy to talk with people. Learn how to write quickly. Everybody has to write in science. If you can write quickly and get to a first draft quickly, that is super helpful. Practice your English. English is the language of science. If it's not your first language and that's difficult for you, it's great to work on that. But all kinds of ways to practice communication. Of course, you want to practice technical knowledge. You want to be good. I became kind of an expert at RNAi. I was a plasmid expert. That really helped me, knowing a lot about plasmids in getting my job and performing my job here at Addgene. There's all kinds of interesting ways, to do those kinds of things and learn the business of science and biotech and pharma and other fields, legal, science, law, all the other fields. So working with a team is another thing to have on your resume. A lot of scientists in academia work very independently. And when you get out of academia, people generally want to see that you're able to collaborate and work on a team. So projects on your resume, like Narita working with this community of science, of biotechnology, to create these webinars. It's fantastic. This is a leadership and a teamwork enterprise that should definitely go on your resume. Employers want to see this kind of work, and it's a great way to meet people as well. Leadership and management, start something, start a club like this, work on the board of the club, be the head of a group, be in a committee of a group, learn about how PIs run laboratories by asking the PI where you work about budgets and purchasing and administrative work. There's a lot of things you can learn beyond just the specific technical science, and those things will all serve you well in your career. Okay, so the first lens we looked at was the lens of meeting people and relationships. The second one was professional development. And the third lens for me at looking at a career is about diversity. So I have been a proponent of increasing diversity in science long before it was like a cool thing, like now, like in the United States, the Me Too movements, the Black Lives Matter movements. Those movements are fantastic because I'm finally seeing people realizing the importance, but I've been doing this work for 2 decades. It has been clear to me from the beginning that the more diverse our organizations are that study science around the world, the more successful we will be. And so, I've been attuned and working on the issue of bias for a long time. So like in this cartoon where the word fellow, postdoctoral fellow, I don't know if you know this, but fellow in English is a word that refers to young men. So if we say postdoctoral fellow, even by calling it that, which is what many places call it here in the United States, it's a kind of a biased way of looking at science, because of course there are women in science as well. I'm not going to go into this into depth, but I just want you to know how important it's been for me and how much I urge you to seek out labs and opportunities in labs where people are aware and fair to their students. Unfortunately, sexual harassment is quite rampant in science. With the Me Too movement in the last few years, we're finally making some progress where some of the worst perpetrators are being unseated. And those are people that have physically or verbally assaulted or harassed women. It's mostly women, not only women, men as well, but mostly women. And we can get those people out of the picture increasingly as we have better laws and better practices in place. And people start to believe women, which one of the problems is you never could say because no one would believe that this was happening, but it is happening. But that's not really the whole problem. The problem is really that we all have biases that affect our treatment of other people. And whether it's gender or race or LGBTQ or different abilities or neurodiversity, whatever it is, we have these preconceived notions about people. And if we don't question them, and if we aren't constantly being careful about them, they will affect the decisions we make, and often in a negative way. So hiring people because they look like you, because they think like you and act like you is not the way to make a great team. It's not the way to make science work for the whole world. So I've done a lot of work in this area, both through, intentionally my network grew because I was finding other people who were passionate about diversity from early in my career and working with them to make change. That became my network without some artificial means of networking. Just really working with those people on efforts to change opportunities for women, people of color, Black people, and LGBTQ people in general. That work has been extremely rewarding to me. So if you are passionate about this, this is a great area to meet people, to find like-minded individuals, and to make sure that you're careful to choose labs that are fair and careful, because you have no other, not that many choices. Once you're in a training lab, it's hard to change. It's not impossible. If you're being harassed physically or verbally or bullied, you should change labs. It's not worth staying. But in general, if you have the opportunity to choose a lab that's good about these things, choose one and try and get the information you can before. I actually have a webinar on how to choose a lab, and it includes how to get this type of important information. Okay, so the third lens was diversity, and the fourth lens is about work-life negotiation. And, I have a lot of thoughts on this after I had a baby in graduate school, and then I had a baby during my first couple years in pharma working, so I have 2 children. I'm about to become a grandmother this year, so I'm excited to finding some work-life negotiation to make sure that even in this time of pandemic restrictions, that I get to spend time with my new little granddaughter. I'm really excited about that. I have to take care of my parents a little more these days. And so, what does that look like? It looks a little bit like this. I started out with certain requirements for my life. I have certain personal interests and passions. I read a lot. Exercise is so important. You have to find time for exercise. We're scientists. We know how important that is for your mental and physical health. Now my parents are needing more help. My kids are grown up, though, and independent and running their own lives. So things change over time, but finding opportunities to do research and thinking about how you're going to work a good life, a full and good life into your career and a career into your life. I don't call it balance. I always call it negotiation, is something that you really have to own and take charge of. So what I hear from a lot of scientists is that they enter labs and the lab heads are not reasonable about work-life negotiation. My advisor was fantastic. When I told him I was having a baby, he was didn't quite know if it was good news at first. And when I told him, yes, we're excited about it, then he was excited and fully supportive and made sure that I was able to get paid and have a leave and do everything I needed to do. So choose your labs carefully, because this is something you can choose usually. And if your needs can't be met in a lab, you may want to make a change. And I know that is a hard thing to do, but it can be really important. You have to choose good mentors when you can choose them. You don't get to do it all the time, but when you can make a choice, it's really important to think about these things, not just the science. The science is exciting. I know. I love the science too, but you have to think about how the life part is going to work as well. Okay, so how do you want to feel? You want to feel so happy at work that you lose track of time. That shouldn't happen. Doesn't happen all the time. I mean, I once had to screen 500,000 compounds in a non-automated hand assay. That wasn't so fun, but the data that came out of those experiments was super fun. So things should fall into place. So some of the things that you do, and thinking about which parts of the science do you like? Do you like the pipetting? Do you like the planning experiments? Do you like the writing? You know, what are the things, when are you feeling great about your science and you feel confident in what you're learning? Sometimes science doesn't even feel like work. It should really be something that is joyous for you. And if you don't get that feeling, I think that you may not have chosen the right path, and there's always time to make a change. So taking control of your career is going to help bring those happy times to you much more intensely. So here's a few last words. You are scientists now. You want to treat this like a research assignment, not just the science you do, but the career and professional part of it. Educate yourself, watch webinars like this. There's tons of great stuff online. Get data, talk to people, do informational interviews, learn about what your future could look like. After you get out of a PhD degree and also maybe even a master's, you know a lot about bench work. So even if you want to move to the business side, it might be easier. I'm not saying you have to, but it might be easier to go to a bench work position first, like I did in pharma, and then use that time to learn about the business while you're there. And that is pretty much what I did. You'll notice I didn't do a postdoc. Unless you want to go into academia, I don't think a postdoc should be required. But a lot of scientists find after a PhD that they haven't worked enough on career development during their PhD to know people and have the opportunities to make the transition. So they do a postdoc in order to get ready for the transition. If you know you want to go outside of academia, start making those plans earlier, and then you don't necessarily have to do a postdoc. Be careful about being whiny. So we're very whiny in the United States in academia. I don't know what it's like there. Oh, it's so hard. Oh, everything. I had to do this. But when you get outside of academia, people want to work with someone who's kind of positive about their work. So I would be careful about that tone. We have some people who I've interviewed over the years that no one would ever hire because they're just so complainy about what science is for them. And that's just not a good face to put forward to the world when you're looking for jobs. And finally, I talked about meeting people. It's never too early. It is often too late. Start meeting people now, reaching out to people, learning about science careers where you might want to live or in fields that you might be interested in so that you're ready with connections when you do start to actually look for a job. Okay, so I'm going to stop there and remind you that we have a lot of resources at Addgene on the website, on the blog.addgene.org. The website is addgene.org, and you can find us on all of the social media streams and on YouTube for all kinds of instructional videos. I want to thank you for inviting me today, and I'm happy to take any questions that come, and also for any outreach after this presentation. Okay, don't see any questions. Oh, there we go. Oh, there's comments. Let's see. Is it possible for students in Bangladesh to do an internship at Addgene? I would say internships are pretty hard, you know, a little bit harder. Thanks for the question, Sadrina, because there might be visa and immigration issues. But Addgene does love to have interns and co-ops. And so you can look for openings on our website, or if exchange programs. It's probably a little harder to do it from Bangladesh, but you might want to look for like organizations at your, you know, where you are as well in order to do that. Let's see. Next one. How long may you need to wait after your PhD to get a job in the US? Well, you don't necessarily have to wait at all. It just has to do with knowing people. So I would say building up your, it depends on where you're studying, where you're learning. If you're studying in Bangladesh, it may be harder to meet people in the United States that will give you those opportunities and jobs in the US. So there, in that case, I would say making sure to be involved in conferences where you're networking, finding out about opportunities, starting very early to look at what jobs are available and making sure that you have the skills for those jobs. I don't think you necessarily have to wait. It's just a matter of knowing what opportunities you're trained for. Fatima says, did you practice any supplementary skills beside academia at Harvard to do better in the company? Yes, I did. As I mentioned, I did a lot of organizational stuff. I tried to take a few extra classes. I wish I had done more. One reason why I do these talks is because I got sort of lucky getting my first job. During graduate school, I wasn't as outgoing as I wish I would have been about taking advantage of Harvard's academic offerings. I think there were a lot of classes I should have audited. I probably should have taken more chemistry. That would have really helped me a lot in my pharma degree, but also some biotech courses. But once I got to Abbott and to BASF, into pharma, there were a lot of opportunities for career training, for people management and project management and fields of science. I got to go to some fantastic conferences all over the world. I took all the opportunities I could to train, starting from when I got into my first pharma job. I wasn't as good about it at Harvard. Can we see some future? Sure. I would love to collaborate more with you. Thanks for asking. What do I think about the major hurdle during my first enrollment in a company without a referral? So I did have a referral. My very first job, I had a referral. I always had a referral. So I don't have great advice for that. It is a big hurdle. And sometimes you have to send out a lot of resumes until you match. So I think educating yourself in good interview skills, getting a good resume written, how to write a very good cover letter. So one thing at Addgene, we often get cover letters from people that are not appropriate. Sometimes the cover letters will, talk about how someone wants to cure cancer, and they won't talk anything about open science or reproducibility or any of the work that Addgene does. So reading articles on how to make convincing cover letters, which really have to address the job description of the job you're applying to. That's a good thing. I have a blog also on using LinkedIn, which is a very good tool for international outreach for careers. And if you look to blog.addgene.org, you can learn more about being on LinkedIn. Hia says, does leadership play any significant role in getting a PhD position as with corporate life? So I have a pretty broad definition of leadership. Learning how to manage people is a skill that is helpful to leaders, but you can be a leader without managing people. For me, the definition of leadership is having initiative to bring forth solutions, not so much to bring forth problems. And so people that do that well tend to excel in their careers. I think it's important in a PhD as well as corporate life. Most of the plus skills that I've talked about today, I don't call them soft skills, because there's nothing soft about career development. It's super important to do professional development alongside your science. But these plus skills, they help you in academia or in non-academia. They're good for everything. Having a person who has initiative and can lead projects and people, that's really helpful no matter what field you're in. Some advice on master's fast track to PhD, opting for a master's degree on bioentrepreneurship. I don't have a great deal of experience with this because in my programs in the United States, we don't usually stop at the master's. Engineers do, but not so much life scientists. There aren't as many people. Recently, many more people have been getting masters in the United States in biotechnology. And if you definitely don't want to be at the bench, I think a master's in bioentrepreneurship is a fantastic idea. My daughter's actually getting a master's in healthcare statistics right now. I'm really excited for her. It's exactly what she wants to do, data and healthcare. I don't think you need a PhD to do everything. It's really important not to just do that because you can't think of anything else to do. It's expensive. It takes a long time. If a master's will get you where you want to go, then it's a good thing to do. And the way to do that is to talk to people who have done it and been successful with their careers from a master's. I did not take that path, but I think it's a really interesting one. I don't think people should take PhDs just because it's hard, it's expensive, it's not always necessary. So what do I think about the major hurdle during enrolling in a company without a referral? Yeah, so it is a hurdle. It does happen. I don't want to discourage you. If you have the right skills and you do a good job with your agenda and with your resume and your cover letter, it is possible, but it's much easier to have referrals. So I really urge you to start seeking out a community early and often as you are participating in this webinar, but really meeting people in person, online. It's a pandemic, in person is hard right now, maybe by video. It's just really important. Okay, Nusrat says, you are doing just excellent in your sector. Thank you. Ageene is very proud of our work. We all know that it's not an easy task to handle huge responsibilities. What strategies do I follow in this case? I have to say that this time of managing a company through a world pandemic, which I don't know if you realize, but Ageene had to close for 2 weeks in March while we figured out how to work. We are shipping now. Was really hard. We had no revenue. It was and people were very sad and stressed. I was very sad and stressed. It has been a major leadership challenge. So thank you for asking that question. I know anyone I know who's leading an organization now is really struggling. So what strategies did I use? I reached out to other people who were struggling the same way I was. Having great mentors. I have a whole bunch of great mentors who are willing to support me and give me advice and talk about what we're doing. Actually, all of the biotech CEOs in the Boston area were brought together by one person at a company called Catalent, and we had a community that was created very quickly. We have a phone call every Monday morning. Now it's monthly on Monday, where we've been helping each other with resources and information. And so that's really how I've managed so far. I have a lot of support from my husband. He's a great partner to me. We've been supporting each other, but reach out to the people around you. This is a challenging and difficult time, especially if you live alone. Please find some way for human connection. It is really hard. Okay, how do nonprofit organizations manage the salaries of scientists? So we manage them the same way other companies do. You can get paid for nonprofit work. I've done a lot of volunteer work, but there are a lot of great paying jobs in nonprofit. Ageene has fantastic benefits. We have a great full coverage healthcare plan for all of the Ageenis and their families. And we have other great benefits of working here. We have a fantastic culture. We have great retention because the Ageenis just love to work together. We may not be able to pay them quite as much. We don't have stock options like other biotechs, but we pay people well within the ranges of their salaries in their fields and in their positions. And we try to do it as transparently and without bias as possible. So we do a lot of checking of our salaries to make sure that people are paid fairly and at their level with all the other people at their level. And so I think that's a really important part of reducing bias. What are the opportunities for biomedical engineers at Ageene? Not that many. We have some bioinformatics. We have some data scientists at Ageene, but we do not have that many biomedical engineers. But there are fantastic careers for biomedical engineers all over the world, just not so much at Ageene. What are the criteria for scholarships for postgraduate studies in the United States? This is not a field that I know very much about because I haven't done this in a really long time. So I would ask you to reach out to people that you know or find people who have recently attained such scholarships or who are looking for them. You'll get a lot more advice from them. I haven't looked for a scholarship in almost 30 years, so I'm not the right person. Any advice for a master's student? What matters most, the topic or the PI? Oh, great question. I will always say that the PI matters most, always, because the PI is the one who's going to give you the skills and teach you how to be a scientist, how to do your work. The topic itself is not as important. So you want a PI that is going to be unbiased and fair to all people in the lab, women, men, no matter who they are. You want a PI that's a good mentor, that's not a bully, that's going to be open-minded and teach you all the things that you want to learn and support your career development. Way more important than the actual topic, in my opinion. What does Ageene want to see in the resume of a fresh graduate? Well, that depends on which type of job. We have a lot of different jobs at Ageene. For example, if you're looking for a bench position in our viral vector team, we want to see that you have know a lot about viral vectors and have good skills at the bench. But for example, for our technical scientists who don't do bench work, we want to see that they have a strong molecular biology background and that they really want to enter a career in nonprofit and they want to help people. Also, we love to see those examples of teamwork and initiative in their resumes. Clubs and things that they've led, science communication that they've done, groups that they've been part of and worked in. Those are really important extra things on the resume that we like to see, along with solid scientific accomplishment and knowledge. Does Ageene have any opportunities for students from a computer science engineering background in bioinformatics? Actually, Ageene has a whole tech team. We have about 10 software coders that run our e-commerce website, which is the ageene.org website, as well as our very sophisticated inventory management system. And anything we do at Ageene has to be coded into our software systems. And so we actually have a lot of coders. We do a lot of co-ops from Northeastern. Actually, one of them has been originally from Bangladesh. Some are from India. Some are from the US. We have them from all over. We've had about a dozen different co-ops now in our software coding group, our software engineering group, our data science and bioinformatics in our quality control group. So yes, we have opportunities for software coders here at Ageene and people interested in computer science. And I think that's the last question. How'd we do? Under an hour, great. Oh, one more question. How can biotechnologies be supportive in hazardous waste management? I don't know much about that field. I think, again, it's just like good networking. You'd have to find people who have gone into hazard waste management and get an idea of how their careers played out. Great. Thanks so much for having me. Narita, any other questions from you or from the group?
I just wanted to say your presentation was lovely. Thank you so much once again for joining us here despite your busy schedule. Thank you so much.
Thanks for inviting me, Narita. Good luck to everybody.
Okay. So we're going to finish the live now.
All set? Okay.
Okay.
Unless there are other questions, I think we're good.
I think that was it. Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.